overlooked. According to the National Green Energy Council, already there are more jobs in solar than the coal and natural gas industries combined. Virginia has the chance to relish in both the economic and health benefits of renewable energy while moving away from climate risks linked to increased natural gas usage. We have the opportunity to be a part of the most momentous step yet in the U.S. to curb the effects of climate change that we're already seeing in Virginia, by the way, in places like Hampton Roads. We have the opportunity to map out a cleaner, safer, and profitable energy future by embracing renewable energy and energy efficiency and the businesses that make up those industries. I know that Virginia can meet and exceed the carbon standards set by the EPA, and I want to see Virginia's transition to a clean energy economy accelerated. With carbon pollution being the chief cause of climate change, and with power plants being the chief source of that pollution, I support the Clean Power Plan and call for it to be strengthened to reduce our carbon emissions by at least 35% based on 2005 levels by 2020. Thank you again.
My name is Nabila Mtatwa. I'm a student at the University of Virginia and an intern for Appalachian Voices. And I'm here talking today as a student and a member of Virginia. Virginia, like many other states, needs to be in full support of the EPA's Clean Power Plant to set limits on carbon emissions. Virginia especially needs to support and enact this because we as a state are going to face a number of challenges if we don't do anything to stop the rising global temperature that is caused mostly by the emissions of fossil fuels, which are emitted by power plants. We're going to see more harmful effects on sea level rise, health, and storm surges. Sea level rise will cause fishers' livelihood, species to all decrease. Our health will be impacted by the rising rates of asthma, and then the health cost of that, as well as the spread of food and water airborne diseases. With climate change and global warming, we're going to see an increase in storms, whether it be very long extreme droughts or very heavy storms and floods. And also the cost of repairing the storms will be detrimental to the economy. Virginia needs to start making realistic and attainable goals for sustainability and renewables. We need to invest more in renewable and alternative sources of energy and ensure cleaner air, water, and overall quality for everybody in Virginia. This is a win for all of us if we're all willing to go in a cleaner direction. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jeff Fang.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm also an intern at Appalachian Voices and a student at Duke University. So just last week, I discovered my eyes were bloodshot, inflamed, and itchy immediately after waking up. I happened to be tabling at the Abington Highlands Festival, and someone commented on my particularly red eyes, asking if I had just gone swimming. And I don't know how to swim, so that wasn't it. No, my allergies were flaring up once again. In the classroom, in the workplace, and a lot of other places, we've all heard the sigh. It's that time of year again. Itching, sneezing, wheezing, they all come out in full force and decimate millions of Americans each allergy symptom. So now it's a question of when the allergy season strikes. As a consequence of climate change, allergy season is arriving earlier than ever. Increased temperature, carbon dioxide, and precipitation proliferate ragweed pollen production, exacerbating allergies and asthma. And as the temperature fluctuates, allergy seasons begin earlier and last longer. Increased carbon dioxide from sources such as coal-fired power plants become fodder for these weeds. Combined with warmer temperatures and increased precipitation, pollen producers are growing faster, blooming earlier, and releasing more pollen. So the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology estimates the health costs of asthma and allergies to be $12.5 billion and $6.2 billion per year, respectively. And this estimate doesn't even consider the indirect effects of allergies and asthma. Significant costs compile with missed hours at work and school. We cannot afford to ignore these health concerns and threat to our general well-being. These populations include some of the most vulnerable. including children that are more susceptible to the effects of air pollution. More than 700,000 Virginians suffer from asthma, including more than 150,000 children. Furthermore, Richmond has reigned as the asthma capital of the United States 3 times. And at a minimum, the EPA Clean Power Plan will prevent 150,000 attacks in children and 490,000 missed work or school days by 2030, amounting to billions in benefits. It simply makes sense to target power plants, or the largest source of carbon pollution, that have led to such increased asthma and allergy cases. The EPA's proposed rule would concurrently improve air quality, clean the air of air allergen pollution, and stall global warming. It is past due to clean the air we breathe through energy efficiency and renewables, and assert that our families will not be collateral damage for dirty energy. I implore the DEQ to support these important steps to minimize the impacts of climate change and assert a robust, clean energy future. Not supporting this important climate action would be a slap to the eyes for millions of Americans suffering from allergies and asthma. Thank you.
Our next speaker is James Whitmire.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to Virginia's energy future. My name is Jane Whitmire. I'm a consultant and advocate, and in my Connecticut town, a former Inland Wetlands Commissioner and school board chair. I know how important it is to hear from a variety of stakeholders when change is required, and I appreciate your willingness to listen. Strong enforcement of clean air and clean water regulations is an important part of creating Virginia's clean energy future. I have submitted comments to the Governor's Commission that will rewrite the 210 Energy Plan. My comments ask Virginia to aim high, and I do that for the simple reason that we can. Building retrofits can keep electricity demand level, absolutely level for the next 10 to 20 years. For the simple, in addition to that, I've lost my place here. We have spectacular renewable resources detailed in the National Renewable Energy Lab's report. They include vast offshore wind. Dominion's offshore leases represent only 2% of the technically available area for offshore wind. Rural and rooftop solar can provide Virginia with enough electricity to meet our summer's peak demand, which the gentleman earlier spoke about. We can do that with rooftop solar and also rural solar. Land leased for rural solar, and we have one of the men here from a rural co-op, can be a financial safety valve for our farmers that wind leases are in Texas, in New Mexico, and in Germany. I would really like to see us do that. We have spectacular rural solar resources. Our fossil industries are not eager to change. Recently, a group of investors representing $70 billion wrote a letter to 100 companies asking those companies to evaluate their climate risk for fossil assets. Could those assets become stranded as we move toward clean energy? The investors' request was informed by the conclusion of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. 3/4 of our known fossil reserves must remain in the ground unburned if we are to avoid the worst destruction of climate change. 3/4 of what we already know about. Evidently, these corporations will only make changes to safeguard communities if they are required to. Exxon replied they didn't see any real risk because demand for fossil fuels will continue unabated, and they see no danger that new regulation will change their projections, either national or international. Shell agreed, adding that they are able to write off their current investments in about 11 years. That would remove any danger of stranded assets. Dominion's stance is similar, along with our NRECA-affiliated cooperative utilities. They have voiced the opinion that the EPA's new environmental rules could force an increase in the cost of electricity, hurt the economy, and erode the reliability of the power supply. These charges are false, and it's important to refute them. I would just like to ask the people who spoke about them to also look at what John, the former chairman of FERC, who recently published a paper saying that the Southeast, the only way anything's going to change in the Southeast is if citizens stand up and start yelling and because he believes that we need to move toward renewable energy. And that is the former chairman of FERC, John Willinghoff. Results from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative in New England, which is all the New England states, do just that. Since 2009, the program has added $1.6 billion in value to the economies, creating 16,000 jobs, saving a cumulative total of 15,564 gigawatt hours of electricity, and efficiency measures taken so far will save the ratepayers $1.1 billion going forward. Cutting carbon neither raised prices nor hurt the economy. Finally, our electricity grid will actually become more reliable as its structure changes to integrate increased levels of distributed generation, and that's the piece that some people are missing. California and now New York and New Jersey, in the wake of Sandy, are all redesigning their utility rules. DOD is planning to make their bases energy self-sufficient for security reasons. Microgrids with distributed resources are more flexible and more resilient. Fort Carson in Colorado and Hunters Point in California are fine examples. I will skip over. I have some things here about the fact that no matter what we do with fossil fuels, we are still liable for a lot of risk as long as we continue to use them. For coal, we have the mercury issue, though Dominion has done a good job. We also have the coal ash issue, and you all know all about that. As long as we continue to rely on fossil fuels, the opportunities for toxic exposure will continue. Contaminated fluids, I'll skip that too. Virginia can easily meet and even surpass the EPA's greenhouse gas reduction goals if our new energy plan moves rapidly to build renewable generation. In 2020, Xcel Energy plans to generate 27% of their electricity from renewable resources, adding new wind and solar at prices below fossil fuel alternatives. PJM has told us they can accommodate up to 30% renewable generation without any major change to the grid. Let's begin now to aim to that 30%, as Robert Rubin said recently in the Washington Post. We do not face a choice between protecting our environment or protecting our economy. We face a choice between protecting our economy by protecting our environment, or allowing environmental havoc to create economic havoc. Thank you.